What's up, everybody? Yesterday, the Raw Armored Core gameplay dropped, and I thought it was incredible. But some original Armored Core fans are disappointed and they're pissed off. So today, we'll try to analyze the situation, try to understand their point of view, and try to see it from an objective, neutral standpoint. But before we get into that, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on all notifications, that way you never miss another video. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. So it seems that the main issues that the original Armored Core fans have with the new footage is the checkpoints, the repair kits where kind of like an Estus flask, the fact that you can change your mechs every time you die, and mostly is the targeting system that is imported from Elden Ring and the Souls series. So before in Armored Core, you didn't have an auto lock-on that would just focus on one target, and every time you moved around the target, you had to readjust yourself. So to better explain the issues that the OG fans have with the current gameplay, I will be showing a clip out of G9 Media's video. If you're not familiar with him, he's a longtime member of the Souls community, and he made a video called the Armored Core 6 gameplay trailer destroyed my hype. So here's a short clip from that video.
So my main gripes with the game is how you pretty much lock onto your target and your robot just stays on target at all times. So you can pretty much lock onto a target and never really have to use your joystick or to aim with your mouse ever. So that's not something that was there previously ever. Like, this is something that they made completely new. Honestly, I think they casualized the game in that aspect because it makes it much easier to control the mech, and so much so in fact that you don't really have to do like any complicated maneuvers to like outplay whatever you're fighting. So I think the best example is this little sequence here, where normally the idea in Armored Core is you want to get behind your enemy, and getting behind your enemy gives you the advantage because you have the angle on them. But on the other hand, getting behind your enemy comes at a price because you have to keep you have to keep your reticle here. We don't see it, but you have to keep the reticle on your target as it's moving, as you're moving. Here, you don't have to do that anymore because the hard lock-on from Souls makes it so that you're constantly hard locked on your target. So you can never really like miss. Or I want to say that Armored Core is not a shooter game, and it's really not. But at the same time, it's like having an aimbot in a shooter game. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
So I'm gonna stop it here for a moment and say that I do understand where he's coming from. Every time you have a beloved franchise that is taking a step in another direction, you will have longtime fans that are disappointed. The best example that I can give you is when Breath of the Wild came out. It was a brand new Zelda title. I was hyped, and when I played it, I realized that the franchise is really different now. They took a huge turn, and this is not the 3D Zelda that I'm used to. And even though I didn't really like Breath of the Wild as much as older 3D Zelda games, I think they really nailed it with Tears of the Kingdom. So what I mean is that every time there are even minor changes to a series, there are the OG fans that will be disappointed or will be reluctant to accept these changes. Now let's get back to Armored Core. What G9 is saying is that the game will be too easy because the controls are dumbed down. The controls won't be as hard because you're always locked in. But I know that From Software knows what they're doing. If they are going to simplify the controls, they will definitely complicate the encounters. So they will make the enemy moves more complicated and more sophisticated. That way it kind of balances out having your controls being easier. I still expect extremely difficult boss fights even with the simplified controls. So I do understand where he's coming from, but this might be a good thing. In the next segment, G9 says that he understands why they're doing this. They want to appeal to the Elden Ring audience, and this makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, when you first look at the trailer, you see a lot of similarities between Armored Core and Elden Ring and the Souls genre. You see the auto lock-on, you see the intricate level design, resource management. It's going to have a lot of similarities. And that's a great thing. At the end of the day, From Software is a game developer. Their only goal is to sell as many copies of their game as possible. Elden Ring just blew up and hit incredibly good records, and now they want to capitalize off that success with Armored Core and try to convert some of that fan base into an Armored Core fan base. And if you look at that from a business standpoint, that makes a whole lot of sense. That is the right thing to do. Let's take a look at the other issues that the OG Armored Core players have with the new gameplay. One issue that a Redditor had, he was saying, should Armored Core 6 have been a new spin-off series? The trailer looks absolutely amazing. The game will almost certainly be very fun to play. Would anyone have been less hyped, even Armored Core fans, if it was under a different name? The departures from the original 15 are significant, regardless of whether you believe they are improvement. What if Sekiro was instead Dark Souls 4? And I have to strongly disagree with this suggestion, because Sekiro was not Dark Souls 4. Sekiro's combat was so different, it could not have been a sequel. You had parrying one weapon, no customization in terms of build, and it was very much focused around one mechanic, which is the deflecting. This game is clearly an Armored Core sequel, even though they added auto lock-on and there are going to be repair kits or Estus flasks at every checkpoint. This is without a shadow of a doubt an Armored Core game, with some different changes, but it's still a sequel. So I find that argument kind of silly. This Reddit user said, I can't believe I was hyped for this, no FCS and Estus flask, really? Might as well make a new IP. And now I want to talk about the issues that the OG players have with the Estus flask, aka the repair kit. It seems like the OG fans really have issue with this because they think it's going to make the game too easy. And I would say that From Software knows what they're doing, and if they added that in the game, it's because there is going to be a need for that in the game. Meaning that the missions will probably be much longer and you wouldn't be able to get through it without any healing. And also, possibly the enemies are going to do a lot more damage, therefore you will need healing from time to time. I do understand why some people are reluctant to changes, but in the case of From Software, they haven't disappointed us. They have been making banger after banger for a decade straight. So there really isn't any reason to be concerned here. Even though they are revisiting an old franchise and they are making changes and adjustments to it, I think it would be wise to just wait, play the actual game, and go from there. Now, one issue that I kind of understand where they're coming from is the issue of being able to change your mech every time you die. It kind of defies the purpose of having to really plan out your mech for that mission, because if you die you can just change it on the fly. But I would argue that possibly the missions are going to be much longer. So if you get through all the mission all the way to the final boss and then your mech doesn't really do the job, it would suck to have to restart everything, especially if it's a long mission. If it's a short mission, I totally understand. But if we're talking about a 20-30 minute long mission, that would really suck just to make a minor tweak to your mech. So I guess we'll have to see how that turns out when the game comes out. In conclusion, one user said that he's disappointed with part of this community. The amount of purism, gatekeeping, pettiness, and misery he saw in the community in the last 24 hours made it very hard to enjoy AC as a game without getting my head filled with an avalanche of useless and pointless noise. Some of you guys are the best, but let's be honest, do you think this community could appeal to a newcomer who never played an AC before? It's rather repulsive, to be completely straightforward. I would advise myself and newcomers to limit their exposure to some community dinosaurs and go play the game blind on release as if no other AC has ever been released before. And that's kind of what you would expect. Whenever there's a new game, there are, OGs, veterans that feel that they are above the new player. And that is really unwanted and unnecessary in a community. Sometimes the Souls community can be like that, like, oh, get good type of shit. And I think that this Reddit user is actually onto something, because you don't want a toxic community. A game that I used to love and I would play on a daily basis was Smite, and I had to quit because of just how toxic it was. So hopefully Armored Core doesn't become that. Of course the campaign is single player, but hopefully the PvP will be welcoming and competitive, although we will keep some etiquette, because I never want to play another game like Smite where every single player hates the next one and people lose their mind over a video game. And I know that Armored Core will have PvP elements, possibly 2v2s, 3v3s, and the last thing we want is to become like Smite. Anyways, that's pretty much it for the video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Do you think the OG fans are right to be outraged and to be pissed off at this game? Or should they take the footage with a grain of salt, trust in From Software, and actually wait for the game to come out before going on with the criticism? Anyways, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications, and I'll see you guys on the next video.